What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Survivor Now podcast and what has quickly turned into arguably my favorite moment of the week. Like, this has been an incredible ride going back down memory lane, and today we're going to hit the halfway point in our mini series here, ranking every single season of Survivor. My name is Randy. Today I am joined by Oli and Josh, as has been the usual for these podcasts. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Doing good. Excited.
Yeah, I am getting over being sick, so pardon me if I have to mute and go off screen for 2 seconds at a time. But otherwise, I'm doing great. Really excited to be here and keep this series rolling. I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Josh, it's been some of our takes, right? Like putting Gabon below Tocantins that made you sick. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can definitely say there's a correlation between those two things.
I'll send you paracetamol. It's fine.
Well, we have made a change before we get into everything this evening. First off, if you're watching, thank you guys for being here to watch live. Go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you are here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and share this video to all your Survivor loving friends. Josh, are you contagious? I have the sneeze coming on. I've had a problem all day. You guys can also join our Ancient Voices live chat. Mark is already there. That made me sick too. The putting Gabon. Yeah. See, we are still actively discussing this list as we go along. I love that you guys have been able to follow with us and see how we build this list. Hear our reasons. We did make a change. Josh, do you want to be the one who wants to talk about the change this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have to break this down a little bit more fully when we're done ranking everything. But Oli and Randy both advocated for Heroes versus Villains going up one spot. They said, I feel like it should be at 4 or 5. And I was like, I can live with it being above Panama. For now, I cannot live with it being above Marquesas. So we bumped it up to number 5. And I'm sure there will be a longer discussion on it since Oli was not here for most of that last week. When we finish all 47 seasons, there's going to be a lot more to discuss.
Yes,
it's number 5.
As we stated, today we're going to be talking about seasons 21 through 30. Then next week it's 31 through 40. Then we're going to have the new era, 41 through 47. And that will probably be that's the season finale pretty much of this like mini series we're doing. So we'll probably spend a little extra longer discussing the entire list as a whole, because that's also going to be the day that we decide moving forward. This is the list. This is what we came to. It's official. Gabe adds in, Randy doing his best to keep Australia high. I've given up at this point.
This episode, Randy's going to be a bit happier. Let's just say that.
Yes. Yes.
I have so many reasons to be happy because I know some of these seasons today are going to bump Australia up. And Oli, do you want to cue us up for this next video? We had a major announcement that came out yesterday. Or should I play the video first? Should I play it first?
I can speak first. I don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously we have our Australian coverage, Brain versus Brawn 2 coming up. And for the recap show, myself and Matthew will be there with a very special icon.
Hello everyone, it's your girl Valeria from Australian Survivor Season 9, Titans vs Rebels. And I'm thrilled to announce that I will be joining the Survivor Now podcast for weekly recaps. I will be breaking down every twist, turn and blindside from Season 10, Brains vs Brawn, with my favorite boy Oli and Matthew. While I won't be battling out on the beach this time, I can't wait to get nitty gritty with all the juicy action. Mark your calendars for February 17th, the premiere date, and let's see what chaos the Australian Survivor gods have in store for us this time. Love you people and chat soon.
Oh, I absolutely love Val. Oli, now you can take it away. Speak a little bit more about what this means to have Val from last season, Titans versus Rebels. Spoiler alert for Josh. I know you haven't seen that season. She finished, I believe, what's it, 8th or 9th? Ninth. It was 9th. We could have just rolled with 8. We could have, but
we're
facts. What does this mean to have Val coming on to analyze the season with us?
It means everything. I mean, Val was amazing during last season, and I think a lot of fans resonated with her. I mean, the reaction alone has just been great. But like, Valeria is going to be someone that brings such a unique take to, obviously, Australian Survivor. So it's so exciting to see where she will go and what she would do. Plus, it means we get to coordinate outfits, which we've already started doing. I'm not even going to lie to you, everyone. Just to also comment on Anthony's thing, it's called Shavideo. I will post it in the comments for you in a second, but that is where I get it, and I know that's where a lot of other US people get it. So
great website. I will say that coverage for that season begins the week of February 17th. We are still buffering on our exact lineup. There might be some more guests coming on down the road. We've got a lot of exciting news for you guys. We're also going to talk, figure out the time and everything. We've also got exit interviews for Survivor Australia, myself and Nina Twine. And Nina Twine's back this year for the exit interviews. So a lot of great coverage coming up for you guys. I know that's not why we're here today, but we had to talk about this news because if you've seen on Instagram, everybody loves Valeria, and we are honored to have her. Let's get to some of these comments before we actually get started. Keisha in the chat, will I be happy? Probably not. We have some hot takes, so we'll see. She also adds in Slay Valeria. We absolutely love her. I came here for Valeria. She's not here today. I'm sorry. You get Oli and Josh are lovely. I mean, and you have to deal with me, but and then let's see. Gabe adds in Valeria will bring the spicy comments just like in the game, I imagine. She's not going to hold back. I can tell you that.
No. And imagine, there's going to be me and Valeria both on a podcast together. There's going to be some real opinions.
I do not envy Matthew. I don't. But let's get to why we are here today. Mark says these next 10 seasons have high highs and low lows, so should be an interesting night. Funny you say that, because when we were talking about what to name these kind of group of seasons, it's Survivor, a roller coaster ride. You got Nicaragua, Redemption Island, South Pacific, One World, Philippines, Caramoan, fans versus favorites, basically, Blood versus Water, Cagayan, San Juan del Sur, Blood versus Water again, and Survivor Worlds Apart. Josh, I know while we were talking about all the Australia stuff, you took a back seat for a moment. So I'm going to go to you first on this. How do you describe these 10 seasons as a grouping, the 20s?
I agree with the description that we have, where we call it a roller coaster ride, because it is. There are high highs and low lows. This was Nicaragua started airing my freshman year of college. So this was most of the time that I was in college was all of these seasons. And it was coincided with, life getting busier and not being able to be as invested in Survivor during that time in life. And also myself becoming more and more jaded with the show as they were making some of these decisions and putting out some of these seasons. So this was an interesting time in the fandom for me because of the high highs and the low lows. Like I would be, you know what, I think I'm really losing this. But then they would kind of get me back a little bit like, oh, this is good. But then, they'd come in with another bad season. So a lot to discuss here.
Yeah.
And I agree. There are some truly elite seasons in this group and also some really rough ones. So it should be fun.
Yeah.
Ollie, what about you? How would you group these kind of 10 seasons together?
I mean, it kind of similar to what people are kind of saying in the chat. Like, I think Gabe's one I kind of want to highlight, that this is considered the Dark Ages. So sorry, Survivor. But yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster ride in that there seemed to be something was going on, and then there was really good moments, and then it dipped again, and then there was some more good moments. So it's going to be interesting. I know that kind of the first half we will probably. It may be slightly easier, not for some of them, but for the most part, like it probably may be easier. And then it'll probably be easier in the second half, but it's for different reasons. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely some open and shut cases in here.
I think the other name that we were kind of saying was the Rise of the Returnees, which I think is
yes, we did talk about. There's a lot of returning seasons here. I think at one point I'm looking at it right here. So you had Nicaragua, I can never say Nicaragua, which is an all newbie season. And then you don't have another all newbie season until Cagayan.
Well, you have One World too.
One World.
Yeah.
My apologies. Yeah. One World and then Cagayan.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of what everyone's saying in the chat. Mark says 3 of these seasons are in my top 7, which there's going to be those arguments about, is one of these seasons the best season of all time? I know some fans see it as that. And then Anthony adds in, the first 4 seasons are kind of a blur of badness for me, which I was saying when I was texting the guys too. So what Josh was saying with last week's episode about Guatemala, and that's when he started watching, and then Oli had Token Chains. South Pacific was my introduction into Survivor, and I'll get more into that later. I know, what a season. You know I'm a diehard fan of the show. When I came in, I started watching South Pacific. I watched South Pacific, One World. Australia was mixed in there somewhere as the one outlier, but it was South Pacific, One World, Philippines, those 3 seasons, and I got hooked. I was like, this show's for me. Not even the best of Survivor. So I'm going to be fighting some nostalgia today, because as I was like taking my notes and looking at the recaps, I was kind of getting emotional because, this is when I started watching the show, and these seasons are near and dear to my heart, but I know the overall fan feelings of them and that they're not high. Like, I love South Pacific, but I know other fans do not. So let's get into it, gentlemen. We've been talking enough now.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with Survivor Nicaragua, one that I just watched for the very first time. Fabio was the one who won this season in a very, very close vote with Chase Rice. Chase got 4 votes. Fabio won with 5. Sash was the 0 vote finalist. Let me just say, and then I'll hand it off to you guys to give your inputs first. I do think Chase was robbed this season. So gentlemen, take it away. What do we think about the 21st season of Survivor coming off Heroes versus Villains, Survivor Nicaragua?
Okay, so like I said, Nicaragua aired my first semester of college. So I was like, adjusting to an entirely new pace of life. And how do I keep up with my favorite show during this time? And I still was super invested the whole way. Like, personally, a lot of people say, oh, this is the Dark Ages. Oh, it's a hangover from Heroes versus Villains. I still loved the show just as much as I ever did all the way through Nicaragua. It wasn't until Redemption Island that my enthusiasm for the show totally tanked. So I think this season gets way more hate than it deserves because it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of really great casting in there. I think that everything up until the double quit is like really, really good. I'm not going to say top tier Survivor, but I think it is still really good. And there's a lot of great moments there. I just want to give a special shout out to episode 2 when Shannon went home. Like, that was such an important moment for fans ever. We had just dealt with 2 whole seasons of Russell and all of his nonsense, and it was exhausting. It was suffocating.
Could not stand Shannon.
Yeah, and then Shannon, who's Russell's like real life crony, like comes in, is trying to do the same thing. Like, oh, screw all these women. Like, oh, we got to get all the guys to go to the end. Like, oh yeah, we can't let these women do it again. And Chase and Sash and Brenda and Nyanka are like, yeah, no, F that. We're voting you out first, even though he's like the strongest guy in the tribe. They go and vote him out first. It was incredible. Like, that was such an important moral victory for fans. And I do think it set the tone for a lot of the rest of the season too, which was really lively and dynamic and like interesting gameplay happening. Not necessarily good gameplay, but interesting gameplay happening the whole way through, with some really dynamic characters that had really fun relationships with each other. Like, between like Brenda and Sash and Chase and Nyanka, there's so many layers there. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Brenda leaving followed the next day by Nyanka and Purple Kelly quitting really did take a lot of the wind out of the sails of the season. So ultimately it's kind of hard to look past that. But I think it is really good for a long time. So I don't think this deserves to be considered like, bottom tier, like a lot of people consider.
I'm interested to Ollie's face is saying he might agree with me more. I did not enjoy Nicaragua when I just experienced it. I just finished it on Tuesday. It was one of the few seasons I've never seen. So this is very fresh in my mind. First 3 episodes, I texted, all my Survivor loving friends and said, okay, I like chaos. I'm one of those people that some of the worst moments in Survivor, according to the fandom, are some of my favorites because I like the drama. I like fighting and I like arguing. First 3 episodes, I was hooked. Outside of a couple of the twists, I hated the medallion twist. That's one of my least favorite twists ever. Just did not. It was like, you can spend your medallion and get an advantage in this challenge, and then it goes back to the other tribe. And that's what I didn't like about it. It's like, there was one time they didn't use it, but I was like, if you're a tribe, you're using it every time because you want that advantage. There was no real penalty for using it other than the other tribe can use it next time. I'm also really not a fan of the age gap twist. I know we've seen it a few times, but when they try to make it old versus young people, I don't like it because I feel like the young people 9 times out of 10 are just better than the older tribe. And that's kind of what happened here. It was like the older tribe just could not compete with the younger tribe. They just couldn't do it. And so I'm not a big fan of that twist. The constant quitting conversations really stuck up this season. You had Holly very early on wanting to quit and then getting the huge monologue from Jimmy Johnson about why she should stay. And that was a nice redemption arc, but Josh, I'm not going to touch base on it too much because you already talked about the double quit of Purple Kelly and Nayanka. I hated Nayanka. I know some people, there's a niche of fans. I'm sure Ollie likes Nayanka. That's his type of player. I could not stand her. I thought she was the most annoying. She's probably a bottom 3 castaway for me outside of the people who are like awful people. Outside of those people. Yeah, I hated Nayanka. Sorry, hate's a strong word. I don't hate anyone unless you've done some shitty stuff. But yeah, I was not a Nayanka fan. She annoyed me so much. Before I hand it off to Ollie, do I want to say this in a nice way or just put it how it is?
Say it.
I thought the cast was pretty stupid. I thought the gameplay was bad. Especially I felt like Jeff was trying to get them to play like a good game to the point where that tribal council, he had to spell it out for them. You have 3 people on this side who are in an alliance. They just said they're going to the end together. And then you've got you 3. Don't you think that you should team up and go against these 3? And then you literally had Dan say like, yes, Jeff, that would make sense. And then Dan goes home because the other 2 just vote Dan, which made no sense. You knew those 3 were working together. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of this season just because I felt like the cast didn't have the wits to pull off the best moves. And it just felt like, as a whole, this season was a disaster in terms of, what Jeff saw from the cast and everything.
Yeah, I'm actually very indifferent on this season. Like,
wow.
It's one of those, I don't care for it, but I'm not like it's not like one of the worst seasons, but I do think there are a fair few seasons above it. This comment from Gabe, I think, is kind of where I'm at. The gameplay wasn't great, but it was mainly kind of characters. That's where I got it from. I agree. I think the medallion twist was stupid. It was pointless. I just want to shout, okay, Nayanka, I do not respect the fact that she quit, but when she was arguing with people, that was slightly funny to me. But it was like, this was the comment. Eve. I loved
Eve. You didn't even get to talk at the reunion show.
I loved her. Obviously, Brenda, you've got Queen Brenda there. Honestly, though, I will say, I will give Nicaragua its credit for one reason only. It did create something in the fandom that is very universal and now viral. The Purple Kelly edit.
Yeah.
So well done, Purple Kelly, for that. The fact that she is the most known person on that season, though, speaks volume. I think we also kind of take into actually also Benry. I did like Benry.
I like Henry. Yeah, I would like.
But I think we liked him for different reasons, Randy.
I mean, his voting confessional for Alina was an all-timer.
That was an all-timer,
yeah. 100% grade A dirt squirrel. That's a great insult.
Yeah. But overall, I am very met on this season. I will admit, I didn't think Chase deserved to win, so I am very much on the Season Kingship away from both of you. But that's also my opinion. I know that I understand his game, but I was also like, you did it to yourself.
I mean, I don't think I don't think Chase was an amazing player or anything by any means, but I do think that his journey was super interesting. Being like, because he was recruited, let's be real, like most of this cast was. But he was coping with like, okay, I am, a nice guy, and I do want to, like, promising to take everyone on reward. Like, he probably legitimately did want to go on reward with all those people, but he's trying to figure out, like, okay, he had a good social game and that he was in good with all these people, but he had to make decisions to cut people along the way, and that was hard for him. And he grappled with that as someone who wasn't a fan of the show and probably doesn't have all that really cutthroat nature in him. But it was really interesting to watch all that play out, because he defied a lot of the alpha bro jock stereotypes that people like Shannon or others like expected him to be. There's a lot of ways that people expected him to be that he didn't exactly like line up with. So I thought that was really fun. And then I also thought his final travel performance was really ballsy, and how he, was kind of marked by being wishy-washy the whole game, but he just comes in and is like, no, I'm going to give you nothing but 100% honesty. And that's what he did, so many people thought he would go in and pull an Amanda, but he didn't. He crushed it. And I don't know. It wasn't the strongest season gameplay wise, but I think that if him or Fabio, it was a super easy choice in my opinion.
Let's see some of these comments before we officially rank this thing. Gabe says Nicaragua was my first season. I lived through the dark ages. Wow, what a season to start on. Mark adds in mostly underrated season, which had its momentum zapped by a double quit and an underwhelming winner. I will say Jeff got on my nerves too, because he kept being like, he wanted everyone to know how bad it was to quit. And I was like, Jeff, we get it. They quit. It was like every single episode, they're quitters. Here comes the quitters who quit the game. They quit. And I was like, okay, Jeff, we get it. Hollow says, I'm a Nicaragua apologist. Those people are very dumb, but I was very entertained. Melissa says, what if Chase Rice won Nicaragua? Is my Roman Empire? That's a good one. Hollow, gameplay is absolutely abysmal, but it is a lot of fun. Holly, Jane, and Marty are my favorites from this season. And then finally, Ronnie says Chase Rice, a huge country music star. He is. I would like to see Chase play again if he would want to come back out. That's nice. Yeah. Gentlemen, what are we thinking as we look at the list here? Because I'm thinking, gosh, the list is my bad. The list is so big now. You got to kind of bring it up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning towards. I mean, the question is this better than Fiji? I'm not that high on Fiji, but is it better than Fiji? I
would say it's better than Fiji. I would definitely say the highest, and this is going to make Randy so happy. The highest I would put it is 60.
It's not better than Australian Outback. I draw the line.
Oh man, the way I see it is, it's hard to do this with the rankings that, is kind of cumulative to where we've come up with, because I look at Token Genes. Like, is this better than Token Genes? Easily, in my opinion. But then to put it above, like, Borneo, Outback, Africa, that feels a little scandalous to me. But I do think it has the same trajectory that Outback and Africa in particular have, where it's like really, really good for the first like 2/3, but then really falls flat in the last like 3-4 episodes. So that is what makes it kind of hard for me. The lowest I would be okay with this at is 16. So like between Outback and Cook Islands.
I'd be fine with it being 16th.
Okay, like I guess we're putting it 16th. The fans in the chat are they don't understand why we're hating on Fiji so much. If you didn't watch this, you got to go hear our thoughts. But it sounds like we're putting it 16th, right?
I can live with 16. Yes.
Okay. And then we could always touch base. Like I said, we're going to have at the end of the season, we will come back and do a real deep dive to see what needs to change before making this list official. So next up, we are going to Redemption Island. It's a brand new Survivor theme where for the first time ever, if you get voted out, you're not out of the game. You go to Redemption Island to battle for a chance to get brought back in the game. Boston Rob on his third time.
Fourth.
Fourth. It was. Wait, what were the 3 times before?
It was Marquesas, All-Stars, Heroes versus Villains. This is the first time anyone ever played 4 times.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting he was on Marquesas every time. Boston Rob on his 4th time playing finally wins 8-1 against Philip Shepard and Natalie Tenorelli. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
This is, I will say right off the bat, I'm not going to have much to say. I'm currently watching this season for the first time. This is the last Survivor US season that I have never seen. So I'm 3 episodes in. So I'm going to let Oli and Josh take this away. I know from everyone talking, this is not a good season, but I do know I enjoy Francesca. And I am a Philip Shepard stan just because he brings so much entertainment. Oli, why don't you go first? Obviously, we had Russell and Boston Rob returning this season.
Yes. I hate this season, and I don't want to be me. Like, I always feel bad if I say hate, but no, this is actually one of the seasons I hate. For me, it's 2 things. It's the downfall of Russell. Oh, have I gone? Have I gone?
Your voice is still there.
No, you're still here.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Sorry, I saw my thing glitch. I was like, oh no. There's 2 things. The downfall of Russell Hance, which I was absolutely here for, but then it was just Boston Rob having a win because apparently production felt like he needed it. In my opinion, this is one of the seasons where I'm sorry. I think we've all discussed I'm not a Boston Rob fan and people think he's overrated. I think Boston Rob has one of the most overrated and non-deserving wins because literally it's just
an overrated.
They looked at this season and thought, how can we just make sure he wins? So that's why it really taints it for me. I mean, and the thing is, I preferred his tribe to the other one. Like the other tribe, I only liked Julie Wolf. Like that was the only person I liked. I mean, obviously you have like Andrea. I did like Ashley Underwood.
I liked her too.
Love her. Yeah, she was the saving grace. I was like, if she can make it to the end, then there might be some redemption. So yeah, I'm gonna say this right now. It will probably be bottom 2 for me right now.
Yeah. I will say this is my dead last least favorite season ever.
Below Thailand.
Yes. If someone wants to tell me that Thailand is worse, that's fine. I'm not going to fight you too hard on that. But for me personally, this is my least favorite season ever. Everything about it. Like, you know, there's the purist in me, and like lots of people doesn't like the fact that you can get voted out and then come back in. It worked out really well with the outcast twists in Pearl Islands, but I think the mechanism and the structure that they used that for worked out better. But I think they really caught lightning in a bottle there and should not have tried it again. But here they are trying it again. And so there's that. There's the fact that they decided to have a whole season of like Rob versus Russell when we just had we brought back Russell Hance 3 times in 4 seasons. Like,
yeah.
Well, they did.
Are you kidding me?
They did the same thing with James.
Yeah, and I
James is 3 times in 6 seasons, and I still felt that was like a little much. But 3 times in 4 seasons, we've never seen that with anybody ever. And that was insane. And I went off on this last week about the Rob versus Russell, like in the pre-merge of Heroes versus Villains. It was exhausting. It was exhausting and way too much, and it was at the expense of all these other people. And now they're like, "Oh, we're gonna come back and do a whole season based on this."
They teased
who wants that? Are you kidding me? And then they bring it back with like, "Oh yeah, and if you get voted out, you get voted back into the game," which seemed like a mechanic to protect Rob and Russell. And then all the cast that comes in, like, I applaud the Zapatera tribe, the Purple tribe, for voting Russell off immediately, like throwing a challenge to do so and not being completely impervious to all of his nonsense. I applaud them for that. Like, they're forever heroes in my book. However, it is probably like the most boring and like least dynamic or fun tribe ever. Like it was rough. It was rough.
The fact that was their peak speaks volume.
Yeah. And then the whole season, it's like, it's so boring. It's a total slog from start to finish.
Don't tell me that.
It's
rough.
It's like,
we told you.
The first 3 episodes where it is like a little more interesting with like, like Boston Rob getting his majority 6 alliance again, but then cutting Matt in episode 2. And then, Zapatera voting out Russell in episode 3. Those are probably the highlights of the season. That, and then Ashley's immunity run at the end. Because that was like the only thing all season that did not go Boston Rob's way. Was Ashley winning those 2 challenges.
Yeah, I will
and say. It was, and I came in really high on Boston Rob after Heroes versus Villains. I came in pretty high on him. And this was like, okay, he deserves the win. And I guess I'm happy for him that he has a win under his belt, but man, at this cost, this was not worth it.
Yeah.
I will say that it's funny that so many people say this is a bottom tier season, if not the worst season. And it's the only season I haven't seen so far. So I guess I mapped that out perfectly. You just got one more sludge to get through and then you're done here. You say, Josh, who wants to see this? But you forget that Russell Hams won fan favorite both the seasons he played.
Yeah.
So obviously,
I don't know why.
People have questionable taste, but yes, he sure.
Let me show some of these comments before we place it. Gabe says Rob Zombie season. Wait, is he on this season? Really? How did I not notice that? Mark says
Rob, like Rob Zombie.
Rob,
I thought you meant Rob Zombie. I'm like,
no.
Mark says boring ass season. And then we got a few comments here from Hollow. I hate this season so passionately, and also a bottom 2 season for me. This group of players is so uninterested in winning. It's like they don't even know they're allowed to vote out Rob. Yes, Andrea was a standout for me. Like, I love Andrea. Like I said, I love Philip Shepard. Rest in peace to Ralph. Ralph was fun at times. Gentlemen, is this going last? I'm not going to argue if you want to put it below Thailand.
I would
rather rewatch, Ollie.
Neither.
If you have to sit down with Rob and watch one of these, which one?
I do think
I'd sit there in silence. I would say I would put Redemption Island above Thailand only because when I look at the season as a whole and I look at which season had more darker moments, Thailand had more darker moments. That's where I would lean, but I'm also not giving to.
Yeah, I mean, Thailand is a darker, uglier season for sure. This one pissed me off more. So that's where I don't know, where it comes in for me. I would put this last, but I don't know if you want to put it second to last above Thailand, that's fine.
Brandy?
I can't add in. I haven't seen Redemption Island. We'll have to come back.
Do you know what? Just because in my brain, Boston Rob would see this and knowing that the season is last would wind him up. So I'm happy putting it last.
Yeah, I'm not a Boston Rob. Yes, let's put it last. Yes. Let's put it last for now. I'm leaning towards last because I didn't hate Thailand as much as everyone else does. I don't think it's great, but let's see. What's better, Holly burying Dan's shoes or that lady burying Philip's shorts?
I think Holly burying Dan's shoes was so
really?
Good. It was so good. And then how she goes and
yeah.
tells him right away. Holly's whole journey was amazing. Yeah. And like from start to finish, how she went from that to like almost winning and being, the fallen angel final juror. It was great. I wouldn't change anything about Holly's whole journey.
Yeah.
Well, this did start a trend. We get to see Redemption Island a lot over these next couple of seasons. But then the next one, we got to see the captain twist again. It's officially my first season that I ever watched, South Pacific, where you had Sophie beating Coach and Albert in a 6-3-0 vote. We actually saw a video we posted the other day on our Instagram where Coach said, he felt like this was his best chance to win Survivor. He felt like he put it all out there. Some people who really can't stand Coach said this was a religious cult that Coach had going for him this season. I just remember like young Randy. I fell in love with, I had no idea who they were, but Coach and Ozzy, like on this season, I absolutely loved them both on this season. You got to see Ozzy. Like I was a Ozzy stan before I learned more about Ozzy. Now I'm not a big Ozzy fan, but like seeing him go to Redemption Island again and kind of like do what you expect Ozzy to do, and that's dominate at these challenges. And this was the season, if I remember correctly, he got voted out twice, I believe. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Three times. Yes. This was Cochran's first season. I know, actually, this is new information to me, but over the years, I've realized that Cochran is not loved by everyone like I thought he was. Like, there are some people who just do not enjoy Cochran. I fell in love with him. Yes. Yeah. Both of you. Okay, we'll talk about that later. I fell in love with Cochran this season. Maybe that's why I love him so much, but he was my favorite this season. He was my favorite in Caramoan when he came back, which we'll get to a little bit later. We saw Dawn this season, which obviously she came back as well to play with Cochran once again. I'm looking at my notes now. Brandon Hance is a very decisive character. Josh is probably going to add in. We already saw Russell Hance 3 of 4 seasons. Now we're getting Brandon Hance on two more seasons throughout this year, whatever, or these couple of years. But I will say, I'm a sucker for drama. I loved Russell Hance watching him play. I love Brandon Hance watching him play. Like not saying I like what they do outside the game, but I enjoyed Brandon Hance. This season was really built to be much like Redemption Island. It was almost the same format and layout and everything. And CBS Survivor was basically like, okay, let's just take another swing at it and see if we get it right this time. Sophie felt like a very forgettable and underwhelming winner for me personally at the time of what I know. I knew that was going to piss Josh off at the time personally, because I was such a big Coach fan. That's who I was rooting on in the finale. And it felt like she was a little bit under edited as well, which I mean, like I said, I've only seen the season once, and it's when it first came out back in like 2012. So I've not watched it in 13 years. And that's just what I remember at the time. Like when Sophie came back for Winners at War, I was like, really? Of all the winners? But I need to go back and rewatch it. And like I said, I haven't seen it in 13 years. So I'm just speaking from what kid Randy remembers right now. And this season did have Ollie. I'm about to take the powers. He muted me into it. I'm about to take the powers controlling away.
He did his ramble.
But yeah. So personally, I know I went on for a bit long there, but personally, I would put. I'm also not to the point though where I ignore that it's not better than some of these seasons. Like, I don't know. Take it away. I'll think on it.
So here's what I have to say about South Pacific. You heard what I just said about Redemption Island, how it is the worst, season ever. Everything about it, like, just annoyed me to no end, and I feel like the show is moving in a terrible direction. Like the creatively, what are we doing here? This is all just objectively really bad stuff. This is the opposite direction we should be going. So they go and copy paste it into the very next season.
Same season.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's how I feel about South Pacific. It's slightly better, right? I think, there's no Russell. There is Brandon, which I definitely did not enjoy Brandon. And I think to put him on at 19 and then again at 20, he was irresponsible. He was not in a stable position to be playing Survivor on national TV. No. Really irresponsible on production's part. I did not enjoy that at all. Yeah. I came into the season really high on Coach, and he kind of lost me this season. It was just the whole religious cult thing was not fun. He was fun and kooky and, full of his delusions of grandeur in the first couple seasons. This one, it was just gross. I did not enjoy it. Never was really a big Ozzy guy. He was fine-ish, kind of. I don't know. This is more palatable than some of his other appearances, but
This
still
was
not
one
really
of
a
the
big
better
Ozzy guy.
ones.
Yeah.
Cochran, he comes in saying, Jeff, you call all of your favorites by their last name, so call me Cochran. It's like, dude, come on. It's so transparent that you're
This
just trying to
feels like you
play
have a
up to the
deep
fan,
connection with
play up to
Cochran.
production. Cochran, I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of Survivor players and former players who I really love that all seem to really love Cochran and really vouch for him. So I'm sure
Andrea.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
Andrea, and she's friends with Cochran. I'm sure he's great. Great.
Yeah.
Watching him was not my jam. It just felt very transparent and like a contrived story that I was not buying.
Yeah.
Sophie, I think, is someone who I normally would be obsessed with as a winner, but they just didn't really give her much this season.
No, not really.
If you look at the confessional stats, there are 6 men this season. 6 out of 9. But 6 men this season have as many or more confessionals than she had.
Yeah.
When she's a smart young winner a woman who wins and takes down Coach and Ozzy in the process. That's huge.
Yeah.
But they gave her nothing. So I don't know. Slightly better than South Pacific. I mean, than Redemption Island to me, but really it's almost as bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's Mark's first comment here saying that's where it was just strange, because I'm like, of all the people you kind of pair, I'm like, Coach and Ozzy, it made no sense to me. I do think it was definitely a better season or better way than Redemption Island. Yeah, I was not a fan of Cochran. I think it was just his demeanor, and I was like, I know people. I'm sorry, I say that with my chest proudly. I do think obviously you had everyone that obviously bullied Cochran, which I don't agree with, but I'm also kind of sat there and I'm like, Cochran, the fact that one of my favorite players from this season is Semha, who was the first out, and she was literally there doing that so random thing, when it was the first duel, and she's there doing that.
She's giving her spoken word.
Yeah, that was
her. She was great.
That was so funny.
It was a great first boot.
Yeah, but yeah, overall this season is very. I mean, you've got Albert, who literally thought he was the God's gift to Survivor, and literally was not. I will say Sophie winning this season redeemed it for me, because I was like, when it got to literally, I think it was when Dawn and Whitney went, and I was literally like, Sophie is my only saving grace.
Yep.
If Sophie had gone next, I would have this would probably be a bottom 3 season.
Should I say where I would like to put it so you guys can laugh at me first and then bring me back down?
Go for it.
I would put it 11th.
What?
I think
you talk about me with token cheats.
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed South Pacific at the time. It's what got me hooked on Survivor. It's what got me.
Honestly, for me, I'd put this one bottom 3, above Thailand and Redemption Island. That's it.
Anthony is saying what we're all saying, Randy. What? What? Look. Sorry, where did you say you would put it? Sorry, Josh.
I said bottom 3, above Thailand, but only above Thailand and Redemption Island.
Mm-hmm.
I would advocate for Samoa over South Pacific.
I will say I'm kind of there, maybe 11th. That's where I am. Maybe even 19th. Actually, I feel like that's maybe where I put it.
You'd put it above Samoa?
I'd put it above Samoa. I'd put it because I really don't like Russell Hart.
Wait a second. Have I been canceled after that comment?
No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Am I good?
Randy, this we saw that alliance. Again, no shade. Everyone's allowed their religion. We're all whatever. But when that is the mark of the season, I know I would sit there and be like, I'm just voting for the person that annoyed me the least. So yeah, I would put it 19th, and I feel like I'm saying that as well to kind of help Randy.
See,
is that your apology?
I'm trying to. No.
I would say Samoa and South Pacific do feel kind of similar, not only because of the big hands energy, but also because there are these really intense male forces that get a lot of screen time throughout the whole season, and it's like kind of a suffocating story. In Samoa, it's concentrated mostly to Russell, when in South Pacific it's more like Coach Ozzy, Cochran, and Brandon. So there's similarities there, and both of them were vanquished by like a younger woman who they underestimated, even though Natalie White and Sophie have very different vibes.
Do you prefer Russell Hands or Brandon Hands?
Brandon. I mean, I prefer anybody to Russell Hands, but but I think that Samoa had me more invested the whole way through. Because I mean, they were under edited, but I liked Galu, the Purple Tribe, on Samoa. I thought there was a lot of like interesting characters there that just didn't get enough screen time. And I was really into Natalie White like the whole time too. I was rooting for her and felt like she was like had a good underdog story. I think there was a lot more that was keeping me hooked in Samoa. And I think that Samoa had the makings of a really not really good, but like a decent season. But it was just really poorly edited. I think this one was just terrible.
Do you know what? There is one reason I would put Samoa over South Pacific, and it is Monica Padilla. So that's why I'm with you on that one now.
All right. So we can go ahead and put me out of my misery and put it 21st behind Samoa. It looks like the fans are with you guys as well. So anyways, moving on from that, my devastation, my heartbreak. Survivor was in need as we go to this next season here. Survivor was really in need of something to go their way. Nicaragua was not great. Redemption Island was awful. South Pacific was not loved. And so then we come to One World. Another season that didn't quite get the reception that, besides the winner, and we're going to talk all about the winner, there was a big time, they split it up, basically men against women. And the whole theme was you are going to live on the same beach together. Kim Spradlin, one of the greatest winners of all time, ends up defeating Sabrina and Chelsea in a 7-2-0 vote. I will say there's a player this season that I really hated. And
just say Colton.
It was Colton. Yeah, and this is the first of 2 of his seasons that we have to talk about. But we did get some other icons this season. Monica Culpepper. I know early season you had that awful moment between Colton and Bill as well. Courtney Moon went out with a broken hand. I kind of wish we got to see her again because we never got to see what she actually could do in Survivor. Leaf was the first. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to use the incorrect
little term.
Little person. Thank you, Josh. He was the
only.
First. Troyzan. I know he said he might be tuning in to hear what we have to say. Troyzan was on this season. Kat, Tarzan. Then you have Christina, Alicia. There was some Alicia. Thank you. Jonas, I thought was even kind of fun at times. So let me see the notes that I put. Obviously, a big thing, I already told you guys that I love competition. And when I was younger watching this season, I was a huge Troyzan fan. I loved Troyzan versus the girls, right? When they got this all-female alliance, obviously it's turned into an iconic moment. This is my island. Went on a little tear, but then ended up getting eliminated. But it really was like the girls just outplayed the guys this season, which is what we usually see when it's guys versus girls. They just completely outmaneuvered them. I thought, in my opinion, Kim's group was the first big iconic alliance that I really saw dominate the game. And then Kim just had such an iconic win. I mean, we ranked our female winners, and if I remember correctly, she was number 1.
I think she was.
So,
yeah. And she was our, greatest female winner of all time. You guys can check out that video, by the way. There's a short preview on YouTube, or you can go to our Patreon to check out the entire video. It is still there. The link is in the description below. Troyzan is here. He said he was going to be here.
What's up?
This is my island. What up? Troyzan is in the chat. So, Troyzan, we can't hold back. This is a season that was very divisive. It's not a bottom tier season for me, but it's definitely at at its highest, middle of the road.
Shall I go first or you, Josh?
You can go.
Yeah.
Your camera's frozen, but you can go.
That's okay. As long as you can still
We can hear
me,
you.
that's
we
fine.
can hear you, yeah.
So I actually am a one world defender. Let me say this first by pretensing that is the post merge. I will agree that there was some. I'm actually not Troyzan, don't you worry. I do think the pre-merge there was a lot of darker moments, but I actually do think they mainly stem from Colton, and anyone else that was kind of a part of it was influenced by Colton, because as loads of people hate this person. I didn't mind Alicia after Colton left. I actually really thought if Kim didn't win, Alicia would have, because I actually think Alicia was playing a very good game. Anyways, I think this season for me is actually one of my favorites because of the one world twist. I thought that was actually a really unique,
good twist.
Kind of, it's a good twist.
Good twist.
And also, we all know I love women. So to see a dominant female alliance since the Black Widow Brigade, it's like it's why I kind of sit there and I'm like, why are people ranking this so low when you have so much that people liked? And I understand the pre-merge. But if you're then judging it on just the pre-merge and Colton, that is a slap in the face to everyone else on the season, because like you had great characters. You had Troyzan, you had Alicia, you had Tarzan, you had Kat, you had
Troyzan, friend of the podcast. He's been on several times with us.
Like you have some amazing characters there, and you had some really good gameplay. Like as we've said, Kim's game is one of the most dominant games. You had good gameplay in. I think Alicia had good gameplay. I think Troyzan had good gameplay. Like. There was so many good moments for me. So I definitely would fight for it to be somewhere in the middle of the road. Just because I do think people look at one aspect of it. And then actually when you look at it, the post-merge was a really good post-merge.
This is my argument. Wasn't it an obvious win, though? That was the one thing. It's like you had Troyzan going up against Kim and her alliance. Once Troyzan lost immunity, I felt it was pretty predictable. And you could see where this was going. Like at the time, I'm cheering for Troyzan to, beat him out, beat out the odds and stuff. But I did feel like the ending was kind of predictable. Not saying that it's not a good kind of predictable, because Kim is such an iconic winner. Like she is so good. And I was so happy to see her come back for 40. And I wish we got to see her more than just twice, because she's just incredible at this game. Like incredible. Josh, before you give your thoughts, another great thing, no Redemption Island this season.
Yes.
No Redemption Island.
Yes. I can't even tell you what a breath of fresh air this season felt like when it was airing. Like, because believe it or not, there was once upon a time when we're like, oh my gosh, there are so many returning players. Like, we need just an all new cast. Like, the returning players, it's too much. Believe it or not, that was the narrative at the time in 2004. And but this being a whole new cast, no Redemption Island. And the one world twist is really interesting, especially with how they set up the opening, like when they abandoned people and you had to like take stuff, and they kind of had some friction between the men and the women because of like all the supplies they were getting. And then they come back and there's they're living on the same beach and there's already some built-in drama. It was great. Yeah. I think that this whole season, yes, Colton was rough. I think that the Russell Hanses of the world embolden the Coltons of the world. And that's a whole nother thing. But I think like this is what we expect when this is the sort of thing that we platformed for a couple of years leading up to this. But that aside, it did lighten up a whole lot after Colton left. And I would also say that, I don't know, the post-merge, was it the most exciting gameplay? No. But at the very least, you're watching a really dominant and likable winner. Like, I love Kim. It was fun to watch her just crush it all season long in ways that we haven't really seen anybody do ever. It was great to see that from her. And she's going to the end with people who are mostly at least a little bit likable or a little bit entertaining. I thought, I don't need to see Tarzan ever again, but I think he was like a fun, quirky. He was fun and he was quirky and like he was what he was.
The phone on the head.
I don't need to see him ever again on the show, but
Yeah.
it was great for what it was. I thought Chelsea actually was a pretty interesting and compelling character at times. Sabrina was awesome.
Yes,
She,
Sabrina.
her final confessional on day 39 is one for the ages. Kat was really fun this time around. Alicia, there was, there was a lot there. And I think she had some fun moments. So yeah, it wasn't amazing, but I think I don't think this deserves the hint that it gets. I think worst you can call it is like kind of boring. When there's other seasons that are way more egregious, like the two that Redemption Island, South Pacific, are way more egregious than this one. This one is, I personally think it's kind of mid. It's not great, but when everyone calls it trash tier season, like one of the worst ever, it's like, actually, no, it's really not that bad. It's not great, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think it's a mid-season. Troy adds in, the big mistake was when the men decided to move down the beach. Would have been better to have the two tribes right next to each other on the same beach. I'll agree with that, but Troy's in. I'm also going to, we haven't even mentioned it yet, and I'll be the one to mention it. One of the dumbest moves that has happened in Survivor, when the men decided just to hand immunity to the women, just because. Yeah, we'll go to tribal council tonight. Troyzan, if you're in the chat still, put that in perspective for us, because that was, watching it play out, not a great move. While he responds to that, if I'm thinking, like, I agree, Josh. I think it's a middle of the road season. I'm looking at our list right now. I'm trying to see what I don't think it's better than. Again, Josh is going to not like me saying this, but I don't think it's better than Token Chains.
Wait, you don't think One World is better than Token Chains?
No.
Yeah, I mean, probably not.
I don't think it's better than Guatemala.
No, I don't think it's better than Guatemala.
You're looking at Africa. Is it better than Africa?
Personally, no. I would say. The highest I would put it is 13th, and I'll just start that off.
Okay, I will say my first thought is, oh man, see, I would take this over Cook Islands easily. Nicaragua was. Oh, sorry, it goes Outback and then Nicaragua. Right. Yeah. I would put it between Nicaragua and Cook Islands, so 17. That's where I would put it, because there are some seasons that you see the argument for it being better than, but I definitely would take Nicaragua.
I would take this over Nicaragua. I'd probably, but not over Australian Outback personally. So I would put this in 16.
I would put it 15th. This is one of my seasons that I would put above Australian Outback, but I'm also like, this is one I would fight for. But also, I know if I'm outvoted on this, I'm not going to be mad. But I definitely would, in that case, put it above Nicaragua. I would also put it above. I would put it 13th, but that's what I've said. Yeah. Also, Troyzan replied.
I saw that.
Definitely no to being above Africa, and it does feel kind of sacrilegious to put it above Borneo. And I just finished Borneo, and Borneo is actually it is really good. Yeah, I could live with it being 15 above Outback, even though I personally would put it 17 behind Nicaragua. I can live with 15.
Sorry, Ollie, I had to look at the email first.
You're fine.
Our email for a second. Where did you say? You said above Australian Outback?
I would put it above. I'd put it above. It's what, Randy, I'm telling you now, there are going to be so many other seasons
I don't think this should be one of them. I think we're crossing a line that should not be crossed.
But so I will say this, because I think a lot, like, again, people try to dismiss the season in the sense of, oh, the winner was so obvious, but you saw how hard Kim was playing. Thank you, Troyzan. Like, you saw how hard Kim was working. You got something brown on your nose. My thing with this is, like, when people say that, oh, like, it was such an obvious win, that's production's part. But also, you saw how hard Kim was working to ensure that she was always 2 steps ahead. So when I sit there and I say to people, like, oh, it was an obvious winner, like, it's a bad season because it was an obvious winner, you're, in my opinion, and this is my hot take, those people are dismissing Kim's win unintentionally.
Kim's not enough to bring it above Australian Outback in my mind.
But I also think there was more people that I think I enjoyed more. So that's why I would put it above Australian Outback. I also just wanted to shade people. That was
Well, Gabe also adds in, I'm on Randy's side, one world below Australia. You're getting the what's now. What? This is when we're really going to start.
And we think I care.
Build the bridge and get over it, like Ollie said. Josh, but it sounds like Josh is leaning my direction, putting this below Australia.
See, I think it's below Nicaragua. That's the thing where I'm like, okay, between Outback, I could kind of go either way. I really do think Nicaragua is better than One World.
I would put it above Nicaragua. Randy?
So can we come to a consensus and just put it where Randy wants to put it?
16 between.
Okay.
We can do 16
I can live with that.
Outback and Nicaragua.
I can live with that.
Mark adds in, One World is below Australia for sure. I'm telling you, the Australian stand up. Stand up. Yes. I was flabbing around. I need to go to the gym. My bad. That's a personal thing.
So we're saying it's 16. No, 17. No,
17.
16.
No,
16 between
behind.
Outback and Nicaragua.
Yes.
Okay.
Next up, we've got 3 more returnees coming back for Survivor Philippines. Now, this is a season that I think has gotten better with people over time. This is Denise's first win. She wins in a 6-1-1 vote against and Lisa. This was Malcolm's first season. This was Queen Abby Marie's first season. I'm telling you, this was a good cast. Carter is someone who I've always wanted to see play again. Did he play again? No, I don't think so.
No,
For whatever reason, I've always been shocked that he hasn't been back. Going down the line here, I mean, we had another Ant and Jeff. But RC was entertaining this season. Sarah Dawson. Angie Layton, I was like, I'll just put it out there. I think as every other teenage boy at the time of watching Survivor, very into Angie Layton. I know Zane Knight has a following, and we had 3 returnees this season who were all medically evacuated. That was and then also Russell Swan and Jonathan Pinner, who all returned. I did not take notes on this season when I was going back today and kind of getting quick rewatches, but this is obviously known for the tribe. Remind me of the name. I know I should know it.
Matt Singh.
Thank you. Matt Singh getting decimated down to just Denise and Malcolm, and then they get split up. And it was kind of a comeback story in the sense of Denise rising to power to end up winning this game, not having the numbers at all because she came from that Matt Singh tribe. So yeah, this is a solid season, guys. I think honestly, I know we were pretty high on One World, higher on One World than other people are, but this is a season that really felt like Survivor was starting to get back in their group. Like it's like, okay, this is a good season. We're going back in the right direction. And when I think of Philippines, let's see. I also want to show this comment. Troy said, good listening to the podcast. Good listening. Got to run. Thank you, Troy Zan, for being here. Seriously, I'll come on your podcast to talk more extensively. Yes, we did also have an interview with Troy Zan a while back. It was on our After the Game segment. So if you go to YouTube, you go to After the Game playlist, you can check out that full interview with Troy Zan. It was like a 2-hour conversation. So definitely go check that out. And then, yes, we will definitely get him back on the podcast. He's a friend of the show. Love talking with him. But back to Philippines. I mean, I'll just say it. I don't want to spend too much time on it because we know my memory is not going to remember the exact moments that played out. But this for me, I'm probably looking at 6th place over Panama, over Vanuatu. That's probably where I'm putting Philippines. It's a very solid season that I think gets slept on a lot of the time. And for whatever reason doesn't get put in that same tier as some of these other great seasons, but I think it's really good.
I think that's very fair. Sorry, you go, Josh, first.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that this is a really, really, really good season. I think when it first aired, again, it's so funny to see the narrative, what it was like in 2012 when people are like, wait, 3 tribes in a season to start out? That's amazing. We haven't seen that since All-Stars. We love it. Yeah. And then, where we are now, it's like, oh my gosh, for the love of God, would you just give us 2 tribes? But it felt fresh, right?
Yeah.
It felt fresh and new. The thought of bringing back medically evacuated players was really interesting. This is obviously before everything about everyone came out. So people are excited to see him again. Yeah. And then some of the cast too, like a lot of the criticism for 21 to 24 is like, oh man, they just cast a bunch of young hot people from California who don't know anything about the show. When this season had a wider variety of people, they definitely leaned into the, you know, the actor route of like people who they were recruiting for sure. But they also had a lot of actual fans, like Malcolm, even though he's like, you know, living in California and is a bartender and he like looks the way he does and he's 24. He was a huge fan. He was a super fan of the show. Just didn't look like the, you know, the Cochrans of the world, but he was a huge fan. There's so much here that was really good. I thought the you know, Matt Singh dynamic, no duds, like that whole you know, storyline with them was really good. I thought that the way that everything played out post merge, it felt like voting blocks before they were called voting blocks. It was really interesting to see all that shake out. I rewatched this season about 2 years ago. And the final 10 episode where Jeff Kent leaves, it's like the plan shifts like 4 different times before tribal council happens, and it seems like really live and up in the air. And then Jeff goes home in this 5-4 to 1 vote. I remember when that aired, I was really, you know, when this was airing, I was really like on the Pete hate train for some reason. He was watching him the second time. He was fine. Didn't love him, didn't hate him, but I really hated him for the first time for some reason. So I was really upset when he, you know, that he survived that episode. But watching it again, I'm like, wow, this was so good. It was like everything about a new era season or a modern season with like, all the shifting dynamics and everything, but it was easy to follow. And it felt really, I don't know, just like really new in ways that we had not seen before. And then the whole, you know, the next episode with, Scoopin, like, you know, flipping to the Malcolm Denise side of things, and then them getting the majority, and then Artis and Pete and Abby, who were kind of portrayed as like the bad guys or the, you know, the villains getting taken down, and then Abby's comeback story. There's a whole lot there. It was awesome. It was like it holds up really well on a rewatch too. It's just an awesome season.
Abby is one of those players that brings chaos, but in a good way. Like, you want to see more of Abby. It's not like a Brandon Hams type of way where most people like, or a Colton way where it's like, wow, I really, really hate this person. I mean, Abby definitely has her haters out there. I'm not one of them. I loved watching Abby play. I love the chaos that she brought. So, I mean, Josh sounds like he's high on it too. Like, Ollie, are you agreeing with us here?
This is my bottom season. No, I'm joking. I really like this season. I think everyone's kind of still like, you can throw comments as I'm talking, because I think like you've all said it for me.
This is a good one right here. Denise surviving every tribal council and winning against defeat. That will
exactly. Like, that's an iconic moment. I again go to the characters. Love Abby Maria, Sarah Dawson just falling over Jeff and then being like, "Can I have a hug?" and then basically trying to snog him was amazing.
Oh my God.
Katie, I loved Katie. Like, there was a lot of people here that I liked. I liked Pete. I thought just the dynamics here were good. I definitely would rate this high. So I'm happy to rate it high as well. So where are we thinking?
I think this season, I do think this season suffers from having a final 3 instead of a final 2, because I think that makes the last couple episodes a little more boring. That being said, other seasons that it's around also suffer from a final 3, making it a little more like less eventful than it could have been. Oh man, I think, but otherwise, I mean, it's so good. The cast is good, the gameplay is great, the storytelling is great, everything. It's the perfect mix of like old school and new school. I think it's definitely better than Heroes versus Villains.
We're gonna get so much hate.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that hot of a take to put this above Heroes versus Villains. Like, this is a really good season. I would put it above Heroes versus Villains. I do think it's better than China. I don't think it's better than Marquesos. So I don't know. Maybe number 5.
My brain was kind of going 6, 7. Between 6, 7, and 8. Like, that's where it was for me. I feel like I could put it above. Like, I could easily put it above Amazon. I could put it above Vanuatu. I could probably put it above Panama, and that's where I'm kind of like, on it. So
Josh
I
is
would
going
go
to
with
think
six.
we're scared of the fingers of everyone.
Heroes
Heroes and
know I
Villains
don't
is
care
just
about
so
the fans.
iconic. It's so iconic. Like, that's where I'm leaning. Is I was leading.
This is iconic too.
Yeah, I
It
think
is.
this is why I'd put it 6. So here's why I'd put it 6. I think it had its really, really good moments. I think when I look at when I compare it to Heroes versus Villains, I think there are slightly more people I personally was rooting for and enjoyed on that season. And that's where I'm kind of on with it. I feel like there were just a couple more people I preferred seeing. I think it's on the same level though, but I would put it 6th personally.
I could put this as high as 4th. I could. I'm not going to argue with that. I do not see it better than China. Micronesia, Pearl Islands, China right now is just locked in that top 3 for me. So I'm okay going 4th to like 6. I don't think Panama's better than this season. But where I would lean is I would lean in that 6th spot behind Heroes and Villains because of I feel like we get a little bit more drama on Heroes versus Villains. It definitely has its low points, but I feel like the cast is also better in Heroes versus Villains for the most part. And I think just everything surrounding that season is more grand than what you get with Philippines.
Well, I mean, it's a
it's a returning
10-year
season
anniversary season with the best cast that was ever assembled.
Well, that's
yeah.
right there. The fact that it has the best cast ever assembled still feels like it puts it over Philippines.
See, I think that but part of why I think Heroes versus Villains is
overrated.
Overrated. Like, it should not be ranked higher is because I think the with the editing and the storytelling they gave us, they squandered the best cast ever assembled. And I think that Philippines punched above its weight class a lot more, and it has the drama, like everything between like RC and Abby and Pete on the first tribe. I'm like, man, casting gold. That was just incredible stuff to have the 3 of them on the same tribe. And then in the Ponderosa videos too, which, I guess that's like extracurricular Survivor stuff. Like, they still hated each other. Those Ponderosa videos were juicy. It was like, the drama was there. The gameplay was there. The storytelling was there. The underdog story of Malcolm and Denise was there. Yeah, I don't know. I think this season like achieved what it was supposed to achieve a lot more. And I think that and it's like, I don't know. There's like fewer holes to poke in this season than there is in a Heroes versus Villains, which I think has tons and tons of holes to poke in.
If it goes above Heroes and Villains, I think it needs to go above Marquesas too, which you guys already know. I think Marquesas is a little, I personally think it's a little high, but
I would still put it. I think the best place to put it is 6th.
I think the best place to put it is 5th.
I would say I would lean the best place to put it is 6th.
There you go then.
All right, yeah. Josh just continues.
Sorry to all the Philippines fans out there.
He tried. He'll continue.
It's still in the top 10. Still in the top 10.
He's got 2 dum-dums here who just Heroes and Villains. But Ollie's like, excuse you. But look, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes now, which has been a hot minute. So I'm going to give you guys a quick break. Go refill your popcorn. We still got 5 more seasons to talk about here. Go get a drink. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm out of my water. Oh, I just spilled what? No, never mind. I'm not out of my water. And on that, we will take a break. We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I am here with Survivor Now Podcast, the best source for Survivor information, to show off what I do for a living. So I make custom Funko Pops. If you haven't seen or heard, you can check it out on Instagram at Todd's Pop Shop, or you can message me, toddspopshop@gmail.com, to order your own. And if you mention this podcast, you will get $10 off and a free torch. So it's pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to show you a few right now. We've got Troyzan here, Phil from The Amazing Race, JLP, host of Australian Survivor, and look, little Charlie. Anybody you could possibly imagine or want yourself playing an LRG or an ORG, or just with your loved one or family or pets or anything like that, shoot me a message. I'm happy to make it. You also have the chance to win a free custom pop if you sign up for Survivor Now Podcast Fantasy League. So it's pretty awesome. And it's fun. Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that? So yeah, hit me up, Get your custom pops. It's great holiday gifts, great birthday gifts. We got a new season of Survivor right around the corner. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited. Let's get this going.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more super fans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a super fan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
We barely made it back, boys. Woo! Funny thing, I'm going to share this because this is funny, right? So we use that as restroom break as well or whatever. Anyways, so I ran, got a drink of water, and then played the second ad, so I had time to go to the restroom. Oh my gosh, I think I broke my back. Anyways, so I'm trying to run back, and I have two switches. One of them is literally for the light, and then the other one is for the fan, which is pretty loud. So I'm trying to flip those off really fast, and I keep hitting the light, but not the fan. So I flip it, run, oh shit, run back, go, and then it's still not off. So I had to do like 3 double takes. And as the podcast was like coming back to underneath my desk, because I have my desk in a corner, so I have to climb underneath it, or I have to like scoot it out to get behind it. I know it's not the smartest thing, but it looks nice. And I literally had to like contort my body to get back in my little cubby here right when we were coming back live. And I think I broke my back. So there's your funny story of the day. Whew. Yeah, I'm out of shape too. Anyways, let's move on to Caramoan. Look, I think you guys already know that I'm going to be high on this season. My favorite player of all time won this season. I mean, it would be like Courtney Yates for Oli winning, or it would be like Stephanie LaGrossa for Josh winning. I don't know if that's your favorite player of all time, Josh. I just know you're a Stephanie fan.
I would say yes.
Yeah. So like, before I say what I'm going to say, and I have Oli come at me about, yeah, blah, 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 this isn't a good season, we know that they could put out the shittiest season of Survivor ever, and if Courtney Yates wins, Oli's putting it first. Oli, no comeback on that. But anyways, to the season now, we have Caramoan. Cochran plays the second ever perfect game, beating Dawn and Sherry in the finale. This was fans versus favorites. So the second time they've done that, trying to relive the hype that Micronesia got, how good Micronesia was. Right now, that's our top season ever is Micronesia. There was some good returnees. Corinne was back. Philip Shepard came back. Malcolm was back already. You could tell he was popular. Brenda Lowe from Nicaragua. Andrea came back. Eric from Micronesia this time. That was a cool story. Like, he was a fan last time, came back as a favorite this time. And then obviously I already talked about John and Dawn. French. I have to mention Francesca was back. No, Francesca. I'm like Philip. I can't say it. I can't. Francesca. I always say, yeah, I can't do it. Anyways, you had Stealth or Us this season. Once again, right off the bat, it was Philip versus Francesca. And she goes again, being the first and only person ever to be voted out of the game. First twice. And I love when Jeff was like, the tribe has spoken. She just goes, again, or whatever she says. She's a queen in her own right. Brandon Hams was also back this season. I know a lot of people are going to say this season gets brought down because that was, as you stated, Josh, and you were correct about it, he shouldn't have been brought back in the sense of he was not in a mental state to be brought back. But young Randy loved this. Like, that fight is one of the moments that I remember the most about. I can almost recite it. Like, that whole fight between him and, where Jeff had to literally pull him aside because there was about to be a physical altercation on the show. Not a great moment for Survivor as a whole, but man, was it entertaining for me. Like, this is the season where Brandon Hams poured out the rice, which at the time I was like, what are they going to do now? Like, it was such a villainous, savage move. There was 2 medical evacuations this season, which always sucks. You had Eric, who had to get pulled very late in the game, which you kind of made, you felt it for him. And then earlier in the game, you had Shamar that had to be taken out due to the cut on his eye. But I always go back to Brenda's vote out, which was heartbreaking because she literally sacrifices for, she sacrifices for everyone else. Look, I've picked Dawn and I. We're over here. And Jeff proposes, hey, you guys can keep it and enjoy it, or you can sacrifice it for the rest of the tribe. She sacrifices it. As much as that pissed Dawn off, I would have also been pissed off. I would have been like, you pretty much just robbed me of that moment. So I get why she was mad. But then they vote her out later that evening, which I could never do. Like, I could never do that. That was savage. And then her turnaround being like, I was genuine with you guys. Like, it was heartbreaking. This season was all about Cochran's dominance, and I'm not going to lie, I loved it. Played the second ever perfect game. After this, he stated he never was going to play Survivor again. He got what he wanted. He wanted the win and right off in the sunset. So I'm pretty high on this season. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about it.
So you heard what we had to say about Redemption Island and how it was terrible. Yeah. And then about South Pacific and how that was also terrible. So then this season, they have 10 people come back, and they bring back 3 people each from those 2 terrible seasons. Each. And people who were not fun, Like, I mean, I love Andrea, and, Francesco is cool, but you only have 10 spots. Do not waste one on a first boot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Especially when Nicaragua had a really strong cast, and One World also
were
had
not the best. Yeah.
One World also had a lot of people who I would have been fine seeing again, that they go and bring back the next season. They bring back 0 people from One World this season. Then they bring back 3 in Blood versus Water. So they were on something with this. Yeah. I was fine with the Eric and Corinne bringing them back, even though they didn't fit the timeline as much. But the casting for the season was terrible. It was, again, they're just highlighting all of the things that were making the show worse in this era. I was really excited for Brenda, really excited for Malcolm, but like a lot of the Redemption Island and South Pacific picks were not good. And then the fan tribe might be the worst tribe ever assembled. Like, there is nothing there. There is nothing.
Whoa, hold on. There's a
comment. I will say, I'd like to give my flowers to Laura Alexander. She tried, but then failed.
She tried.
So she tried.
Yeah, she tried.
Standouts were Eddie, Reynolds, and Sherry.
See, even like Reynolds, right? Like, I was rooting for him like later on because he was against the people who I was rooting against. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I want him to succeed. But also, he was like really skeezy and like made some comments that were like not great, So even that, and Eddie too. Like, okay, I was rooting for him at the end, but that was more like because I was rooting against Cochran and Dawn than I was for him.
Yeah,
there was nothing. Yeah, I don't know. I will say this about Caramoan and why I think it's better than Redemption Island and South Pacific is because I did really enjoy rooting for Brenda in the post-merge and for Malcolm kind of post-swap. I was really, really invested in both of them and really bummed when they both left. I thought the 3 Amigos Tribal Council where...
That was entertaining.
Yeah, Malcolm pulls the 2 idols. It just is like, okay, we're done with Philip. Like, screw this guy.
Yeah.
We're putting our votes on him, and the way they took him out, it was awesome. That was really great. So it does have some highlights and some things to enjoy, but in general, it's just, man, like really terrible casting. Really, like Philip trying to do the whole Boston Rob thing was beyond suffocating.
Stealth RS.
Yeah. I mean, the fans tribe was terrible. The way that the narrative of the favorites tribe was like pretty terrible. But they gave Brenda one of the biggest purple edits ever up to this point, and I just can't support that by any means. Yeah, I don't know. It's like this season is rough, like pretty rough.
I'm not gonna lie, I'll be quick. I don't really have a lot of opinions on this season. I remember it's similar to me with Palau in the one and done. Like I watched this season once and I don't need to watch it again. Brenda Slay. Flowers to Laura. I didn't mind Corinne. I'd say she was a villain more than a favorite. Andrea, yes. I'd put it 20th.
The lowest I was looking at is I like Australian Outback moving up, and I do think there is an argument that One World's better than this. I do agree with everything with the cast. The Final Tribal Council, which some people put in the comments, the Final Tribal Council was a bit disgusting, but Cochran played well. Obviously, the teeth moment was a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gabe, I enjoyed the journey of Eddie, Reynolds, and Sherry. Hated the guys and loved Sherry and pre-merge and flips up merge. You love Eddie and Reynolds and all that. I was going to put it 18th, but I know that's not going to happen because Josh is going to say it's not better than Nicaragua, and I could tell that's where Oli was going to.
I would put this 23. I would take All-Stars, Fiji, and Samoa over Caramoan easily.
I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with my fandom. why I enjoy these seasons that people hate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was
iconic for me because Cochran won at the time. And again, it's been 12 years since I've seen this season. So potentially in a rewatch now that I am a full out adult and I understand things a little better, I'm sure that I could see what you guys are saying. My argument, I still am not that I'm okay with it going below Samoa. I do not think Samoa's good. What about 22nd above Samoa?
Sure, I guess. I definitely think Samoa is better. This season pretty much destroyed my enthusiasm for the show.
Wow.
In a way that took years
now it's got to go below Samoa. If Josh is saying that, it's got to go below Samoa.
Everything, it was just, I can't even, I already said so much about why this season represented so much of what was bad, and then they reiterated it. It was like they're doubling down on all the worst stuff, and I'm like, I just can't. What happened to this show?
You're so big on the editing, though, and Samoa. I'm so sorry. Continue. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's just like this season was like, what are we doing here? Like, what direction is this show going in that we think this is good? And yes, Cochran, I'm sure he's a good guy, and he's a more palatable winner than a lot of these other folks who they cast this season, I guess. But I'm not buying it. I'm not really inspired by his whole winner story or journey. And I think Dawn had a really compelling journey as someone who comes out and plays this really aggressive and ruthless game, and then Cochran kind of is behind her and gets all the votes because everyone hates Dawn. Not entirely dissimilar from like other people who have played the game and won like Cochran or lost like Dawn. I think that we give Cochran more credit because he's like a strategic sounding like super fan man when a woman plays this game, like hiding behind someone who's actually making the deeper connections and slicing throats in a more vicious way. We discredit those women, but we hype up Cochran. So I think I'm not really drinking the Cochran tea necessarily. It's just I enjoyed rooting for Malcolm and for Brenda at various points, and Corinne ended up being all talk with her, with how she was hating on Philip so much. Like, she could have made something happen. She never did. But I enjoyed at least the idea of rebelling against Philip. There really is not. There are some bright moments that were legitimately enjoyable this season. But as a whole, this season is like a dark rain cloud that epitomizes the era that was a dark rain cloud.
You're so big on editing, though, and Samoa has like the worst editing ever.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think this season's editing is not much better. I mean, it's better, but it's not crazy better.
All right.
And there's not really that much there. There's so much this season that drives me nuts. And like I said, totally killed my enthusiasm for the show in the ways that took years.
Sorry, were you just holding your Cochrane thing for comfort there? Sorry, I was fully clocking it.
Cochrane, they will never make me hate you, my man.
So yeah, if you want to put it like, you know, above Samoa,
I'll put it below Samoa because that's where Ollie you were going below Samoa as well. So can we put it one spot below Samoa, whatever that is,
above South
23rd?
Pacific,
above South? Yes, I
yeah,
will
that's
say
where
that.
that's where I would.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When Josh was talking, I was like, actually, I'd put it below South Pacific, but I'll also be fine with that. So I'm fine with that.
All
So
right,
Caramoan.
let me get back to these backgrounds here as we move along. Next up, I know I've been ranting a lot this episode. I'm going to try to take a back seat on this one, but it is the first blood versus water season. Tyson is the one. He pulls off the Boston Rob, finally gets his win, winning 7-1-0 against Monica Culpepper and Jervis. This is the first time that we got the blood versus water theme, which ended up being a very, very iconic theme. It's still popular today, coming over to Survivor Australian side of things when they did blood versus water. It's really compelling to see people go out there and have to duel and battle, whether they're going to make the right move for the game or the right move for them and their loved one. Josh, what do we think about the first rendition? We have two of them to talk about tonight. The first rendition of blood versus water.
Yeah, so I said that Caramoan totally zapped my enthusiasm for the show, and I heard, okay, they're bringing back Redemption Island. They're doing players with loved ones. Like, that's so tacky. Are you
Colton's
kidding me?
back again.
Colton's back again. Like, Monica Culpepper. Are you kidding me? Like, of all the people in Survivor history you could have brought back, you choose Monica Culpepper. And Rupert. Like, we've seen enough of him, you know? So my expectations were completely in the trash with this season, to the point that I didn't even watch it until Thanksgiving break. So I caught up on a binge Thanksgiving break, my senior year of college. And I was like, oh, actually, this is not bad. I think this
You
is
just
like,
rewatched it, right?
I only made it through the RS boot at the merge.
Okay.
But I watching it at the time, I'm like, this is actually not bad. It's kind of okay. Given the Redemption Island this is the most interesting iteration that they've used Redemption Island, which was cool. I think it was interesting to watch people and their loved one dynamics play out.
There are some rivalries with this.
Yeah, some fun rivalries, like
Brad Culpepper.
Yeah, the FU Brad Culpepper was great, and like
Monica throws the clue in the fire.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I mean, there's some things like the way that they voted off Candace and Laura B right away was absolute BS. Like, completely one of the worst twists ever to vote someone off on second one of a season. I'm a Candace defender till the day I die, but I think that even if it weren't her, I still think it's absolute nonsense to vote someone off right away, second one. I think that she made a lot of it. Candace made a lot of it. I think this was a really fun and like spicy iteration of her. Although I think all three of her iterations are, definitely had a lot of spice to them. But I think that, you watch this season and it's like, tell me Candace is boring. Like, watch this whole season and I dare you to tell me with a straight face that Candace is boring. She is not. There's a whole lot there.
Mom.
Yeah, Sierra, the Laura Sierra dynamic is really interesting, and rewatching it, knowing how that ends and watching it build up. Like, right before Laura comes back in the game, Sierra gives this confessional. She's like, I kind of have mixed feelings about my mom coming back. Like, obviously I love her, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, long story short, this season, it actually ended up being kind of okay. Even though I expected it to be terrible. A lot of people say that a lot of people have this really high, and I just am not.
I don't.
I think the post-merge is pretty. There's some interesting moments, like the rock draw at the final six is really good, and the whole the build up to Laura Moret getting voted out again was like really interesting. But it is kind of a Tyson Jervis Monica steamroll. Yeah, and this is a season where the final three, opposed to the final two, making the season worse is like really pronounced, because it was pretty clear how that was going to go the whole way. Sierra kind of takes a swing at them at the final 6 with the rock draw, but it's too late. She could have done it one round before. They would have the numbers and not had to draw rocks. The post merge is kind of boring. With some interesting moments. So anyway, I think all in all, this season is fine. I expect it to be terrible.
Fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the perfect way to put it. It's fine. Like, I liked the dynamic that they did with this redemption item, where it's like there's the chance that like you could swap and whatnot. Marissa Patterson, Queen.
Yep.
Laura, Queen. I liked Sierra.
Even Caleb. Caleb was awesome.
Even Caleb, I liked Caleb. I thought Caleb, Sierra, and Hayden, I thought were really good additions. I thought they brought something.
Yes,
But I'm not gonna lie. RIP Caleb. But overall, when I look at this season and the other season that does Blood versus Water, I prefer that other season, and this one to me,
100%.
To me is fine.
Yeah,
I would put it 18th. It's fine.
Where would that?
I would put it 18th. It would be
above Nicaragua.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Josh,
I mean,
Are we going to agree for the first
I'm
one?
okay with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, 18th. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, looking at the ones above it,
Right.
like I think I would definitely take Gabon, Guatemala, Africa, Borneo, Outback. Definitely take all of them. And if you want to put one world over Blood versus Water, fine with me. I think a lot of people think this is. I find this season actually to be like pretty overrated in a lot of circles. Like
this isn't even the best Blood versus Water.
No, but the narrative
I
I don't know if it is much now, but for a long time the narrative was like, oh, the second Blood versus Water just didn't work out as well as the first one. When really I think we'll get there with San Juan del Sur, but I think San Juan del Sur clears this easily, like without question. This season is fine. There's some fun moments, some fun characters. I think like it's cool. I loved Tyson and Tocantins, so it's like cool that he won. I think the journey there wasn't the most inspiring, and I think his edit was a little more watered down and didn't show like how fun and like cutting he can be.
Yeah.
But good for him. I listen to his podcast almost every week, and I enjoy him as a person a lot. I think his win was kind of uninspiring, but I'm glad he has it.
Yeah, finally got a win. He pulled the Boston Rob where he came back over after so many times. This was definitely his best performance.
Easily,
a mile. So, and obviously he won. So next up, let's go back to the Philippines, and specifically the Cagayan part of the Philippines. This is going to be a season I'm very excited to see where we place it, because fans love it. And I've always said, that's the buff I'm wearing right now. You can see the logo. I've always said that this was my favorite season, watching it back. Or I haven't watched it back yet, but when I first saw it, I was like, this is the best season I've ever watched. That was phenomenal. Now that I've seen Micronesia, we'll talk about it to see if I still think it's the best. This was a season that it was brains. It doesn't say it in the logo, but it was brains, beauty, brawn, which is funny because the Survivor Australia season coming up, we're about to get our second rendition of brains v brawn. But this also threw in beauty, but the beauty tribe was definitely the weakest one out of the three. I know there's some iconic people on it, but they really didn't contend with the others. The Brains tribe was a mess, but man, was it an iconic mess with Spencer versus Cass, which was by far the biggest rivalry to me that I had ever witnessed in Survivor. I was so invested in that. I remember talking nonstop every day about the dynamics between that rivalry. I was on the Spencer side of things. I was like, I hated to love Cass. Cass wasn't someone that I'm like, ooh, I hate her. I never want to see her again. But like, Cass was a villain that I loved cheering on. Those are the types of villains that I wish they brought back in the new era. Cass is not a bad person. Cass is a very good person, but when Chaos Cass comes out, man, does she make some compelling villain television, and I couldn't stand her each and every week, and it gave me someone to root against. Tony ends up winning against Wu. Obviously, the big question is, did Wu take the wrong person to Final Tribal Council. This was a Final 2. So sorry, my shoe's coming off. That Josh is going to be a fan of it because it's a Final 2. I will bring up, I know I already talked about Cass and Spencer, but can we talk about Tasha? Oh, yes, Tasha. I'm going to bring out Sarah and Tony. That interesting dynamic, that duo started this season. This guy's straight to the point. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I know I can ramble for days. This is a top 5 season. This is a good, really, really good season.
Yeah, there was definitely hype here, and I'm here for that hype. I mean, I could talk about Morgan McLeod similarly to how
Why did I know you were going to bring
I love Morgan.
Morgan's probably the reason. Never mind.
So go on. No, say what you were going to say.
No, I was just going to say Morgan was very attractive and might be the reason they don't allow regular swimsuits on Survivor anymore.
That's fair. Now, I loved Morgan. With your thing about the beauty tribe, the reason it was meh is because you had those other 4 be the majority. Had we had Morgan and Bryce being the majority,
we didn't even bring up Bryce. He would we didn't bring him up.
Icon Bryce, but yeah,
Bryce is an icon.
Morgan McLeod. We have even Jatia. Come on now, Queen Jatia.
Shack, speaking llama.
Exactly. There is so many good character moments in itself that would make it such a good season to watch Survivor. Again. But yeah, and but it's also the dynamics. There was good gameplay. Is Tony my favorite winner? No, but do I think this was a really good season? Yeah.
Yeah,
take it away.
I mean, I think what Mark in the comments is saying about hands down the best pre-merge of any season, especially the premiere. Excellent season overall, but post Sarah Boot doesn't quite live up to the hype. Still a 9 out of 10 season, can't go quite to 10 out of 10. That's pretty much how I feel. I think it's objectively really, really, really good. All of the there's a ton of drama, really great casting. I think the things that really make this season pop are the premiere, which was nuts. Having Jatia survive that premiere and with both of those ways that the Brain Tribe lost was crazy. The merge episode is probably the best merge episode of all time. One of the best episodes, period, of all time, with Sarah thinking she's in the middle between the 2 groups of 5 and then them voting her out, which, by the way, I feel like people often credit Tony for that, but that was Trish. Trish is the one who was there's cracks over on that side. I bet Cass might flip. Hey, Cass, who do you want to vote out from that group? Cass says Sarah, and Trish says, all right, done deal. We are making that happen. So shout out to Trish. She was a great player. But yeah, that merge episode was incredible. And then the finale. So I think the premiere, the merge, and the finale are with Wu taking Tony in the end, which was a big decision.
Do you think Wu would have won?
10 years later. Cass says she should have won, and then a lot of other people say Wu would have won. I don't know.
They did a poll at the finale. They did a poll at the reunion. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wu probably would have won, but I don't know. Cass had a lot more game to defend. She's a lawyer. It would have been interesting to see her at Final Tribal, but Wu didn't really have that much of a game to defend.
That's fair point.
So, I don't know. But either way, the final 2 I really wanted to see was Tony and Cass, but I don't think that was ever going to happen. But anyway, the premiere, the merge, the finale are historically
great,
really, really great and significant. I do think that after the Sarah Boot, like Mark said in the comments, it just didn't quite get there. I think there was a lot of the episodes in the post merge oh man, there's this really fun plan brewing. What if it happens? Oh, too bad it didn't happen. Kind of like every other episode, that was what was happening.
Yeah.
So. And then ultimately, Wu being in Tony's back pocket, and no one even really trying to take a swing at him. And that kind of, it was fun because the personalities were really explosive. And, there's some underdogs to root for, I guess, with Tasha. But it was a little bit more straightforward because, people are oh, wait, we've got to break up Tony and Trish, when it's no. Wu is the one who's going with Tony when Tony's going rogue. Why are we not seeing that here? So I think that, the post-merge definitely wasn't as good as it could have been. So I agree with Mark. Solid 9 out of 10 season. Not quite 10 out of 10, but it is really, really good.
Yeah, I will. I'll also add in Cliff Robinson actually passed away as well back in like 2020. So RIP to him. I'm just also paying respect to those that we've lost along the way in these seasons. I'm leaning. Here's the tough thing. We've got Micronesia first right now. That's my favorite season. Arguably, it's either that or this season. So I would feel really selfish putting this at 2 because then it's like, oh, Randy gets his top 2 seasons, 1 and 2. Because what I'm looking at is Micronesia, I think, is the best season. Josh has Pearl Islands as the best season. Ollie has China as the best season. So with all that being said, I think this is the fans' best season. A lot of fans believe it's either this. You could also argue Heroes versus Villains is probably the fans' best season. I think this should go 4th above Marquesas. I say that with confidence. But then it's also behind the 3 seasons that all 3 of us think are the best seasons.
I definitely would put Marquesas over Cagayan, but I would put Cagayan over Heroes versus Villains.
I would put Cagayan over Marquesas. Sorry, Josh.
Well,
look, I didn't get my way with China, so
yeah. I mean, I think Marquesas is a game-changing season with really interesting casting and really dynamic gameplay all the way down to the end.
Let us know in the comments, fans, right now. We're going to go ahead and put it below Marquesas. Or no, above Marquesas. Josh is like, yeah, put it below Marquesas. Let us know in the comments, everyone who's watching right now, and we'll let you guys decide, Marquesas or Cagayan.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as a top 4. I feel like this is probably a consensus, like Mount Rushmore season of Survivor. Yeah. I don't think it's quite. I think personally for me, it's more like in the 10-ish range for me than like top 4, top 5. But it is still really good. So sometimes I feel like I'm splitting hairs a little bit. But yeah, I'm fine with 4.
4, and then we'll obviously go back. Like, that's tough. I need to rewatch this season, and I think I am after I finish Redemption Island. I think I'm going to rewatch this season before our final stream where we kind of set how the rankings are going to go, because I'm still interested. Obviously, I just watched Micronesia for the first time. I haven't seen this one in 10, 11 years, but this was my favorite season when it first aired. And I want to see if I watch it now, how does it live up to Micronesia? I'm still torn on whether I like this better or whether I like Micronesia better, personally. So moving on here, we got a few more seasons to discuss. Ollie, it is late for you. Are you still great, my man? Are you doing okay? It's like 3 a.m. for Ollie right now. Anyways, let's move to Survivors and Juan del Sur. The second rendition of Blood versus Water, the theme that was so good that they did it 2 seasons later. They did 1 season of Brains, Beauty, Brawn, and then they said, we got to bring it back. We got to do Blood versus Water. The difference, though, last time there was returnees for Blood versus Water. This time it was all newbie players. And we got, once again, another iconic winner with Natalie Anderson beating Jacqueline and Missy in the finale with a 5-2-1 vote. Other people you have this season, Keith Nail, RIP. This is the one that he was introduced this season. Baylor Wilson was on this season. I'm just going down the list. Reed Kelly was not afraid to tell you how it is. He's a friend of the podcast. We've chatted on Instagram. I feel like I got to mention my second favorite player of all time, and hopefully this one will redeem me for being a Cochran fan. Jeremy Collins is my second favorite player of all time, and he's on this season. His dynamics with him and his wife. The great Kelly Wentworth was a pre-merge boot that came back, and we got to see her a lot. I think one thing that really brings down this season is obviously John Rocker's antics and how he was a hothead. That was some drama that I didn't really enjoy, but I think it has I think it's got a really fun and entertaining cast, as well as I love the story arc. This is what Blood versus Water should be about. Yes. Nadia gets eliminated first. Natalie looks at that and basically goes, okay, that's how it's going to be. I'm going to run away with this game. And I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to win this for my sister. And that created such a fun dynamic. I will be honest, I watched the twins play on Amazing Race before this season came out.
Same.
Did not like them on the Amazing Race.
Oh, I loved them on the Amazing.
I did not. So when I found out they were coming to my favorite show, Survivor, I was like, God, why? I wasn't even a fan of Natalie Anderson when she won. But yeah, I've matured.
That's a
And
take.
I was a dumb kid, very dumb kid. But she's an icon, and I love Natalie Anderson now. She is absolutely iconic. So this is better. I agree, Josh. This is way better than the first Blood versus Water season. I think it's one of the best seasons that we've ever had. I'm looking at the list right now. I'm back in that like 8th range. I know I'm not as high on Paramount as you are.
Yeah, I'm way higher.
You guys are okay.
I'm way higher.
I'm gonna say this.
I'm okay with this over Heroes versus Villains.
I'm gonna say this. San Juan del Sur is a better season than Cagayan. I think it just put the two of them head to head. I think it's better. I think that San Juan del Sur down the stretch, I think just gets better and better, and it is like everything. It punches above its weight class in so many ways, and I think it leaves you so satisfied every single time. I think Natalie's whole winter arc journey is probably one of the most satisfying and fun and entertaining ever. I think that she, phenomenal gameplay and super entertaining and just narratively so satisfying. I think that John and Jacqueline's dynamic was hilarious. Like that one episode when they get in that one fight and they won't talk to each other, and it says like 5 hours later on the bottom while Reed is just imploding because the plane can't get put together because the two of them are fighting. It's so funny.
Do you remember Reed in the Brat incident when he's like,
that was that same episode. That was great. And then Natalie pretending to be on the wrong side of the split vote to work with Keith later, which she then does the next episode when she like takes out John like 2-2-2 at the final 6 when he has an idol in his pocket. Like that was I don't know, just like a stealth assassin move that she pulled off so well. And then obviously the Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? Like is one of the most perfect entertaining epic moments of all time in the show's whole history. Like it was so good. And I think like I said about Cagayan before, how it kind of like leaves you hanging and is just like, oh, wouldn't this be really fun? Too bad that didn't really happen. Like half the episodes post merge. San Juan del Sur delivers every single time.
Would you say it doesn't get talked about enough? Because I don't feel like it gets.
Oh yeah, no.
I think it's underrated.
I think it's getting its flowers more these days, but I think historically,
on rewatches and stuff,
But the thing is, I think a lot of people, the things they knock against it are like John Rocker, like you said, but like, okay, I mean, he lasted 3 episodes.
Yeah,
you know. And then people say people hate on the pre-merge. And say that the pre-merge is really bad. I would not say it's really bad. It's not great, but I think the John Rocker episode is really good, and the Drew Christie boot is also an all-timer. So it's like 2 pretty good episodes. When the rest of it was, fine. It wasn't super inspiring, but it wasn't bad. It was fine. But then the post-merge, the way that it took off down the stretch with Natalie's whole arc, and Jacqueline's journey was so fun. Jeremy is great. Like I think there's
Dale. Shout out to Dale. Dale was
and Keith is super entertaining. Like he was a legend in his own right. This season it's so good. I definitely think it's better than Cagayan.
Yeah, as Randy will know, this is the season that got me on the podcast, so I'm obviously going to give this season a lot of praise. Natalie Anderson is one of my favorite winners. I'm kind of in like this. I am prepared to die on the hill, but I think we all are. It's definitely it's the definition of a slow burner, because you have those first few episodes that are like, oh, how is it going? And then it just picks up. Like, again, I'm kind of in the same chain as so many people. Melissa in the chat, like, it's a top 5 season for sure. Like Erica, like, I agree with a lot of these opinions. I think there was so many. Sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You were showing all those comments. I sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say thank you to everyone in the chat right now.
Yes, thank you. You're making a lot of fun.
It's
Yeah.
blowing up, and I feel like
It
each
is.
week these episodes continue to get more and more conversation. So, Ollie, I know I interrupt a lot, but that was one that I had to interrupt for because, like,
No,
thank
you're
you
fine.
for the chats. Keep them coming.
But yeah, I think there's so many great characters, so many story arcs. Like again, Gabe said it in the chat. Like Natalie revenge arc was great. Like I'd love to see Reed on another season. Like Reed readed. Like he read everyone. Like Reed read. He read everyone for filth, and that's why I was here for it. I mean, that immunity challenge where he wins and then just goes into the split is just so sassy.
Yep.
But also you just have some great dynamics. So yeah, for me, I would put this fourth. It is one of my top 3 seasons.
I see. I know, Ollie. I know you love China. I think this one clears China. Like, I think it's better than Cagayan. I think it's better than China. I think this one, it just the way it heats up and it just delivers banger after banger, like all-time classic moment and like great gameplay and like really fun blindsides all the way down the stretch. I think it's better than China.
Is it better than Pearl Islands?
No, but I do think it's better than China.
See, I'm just going to remind you both that I'm the one with the sharp tongue, and if you both keep reminding yourselves that your 2 favorites are the top 2 and then you put something else under mine, I will do a Natalie Anderson and get revenge. I am happy to put it at 4th, and then we go back.
I think it's fair to have the 3 seasons that we think
for now
are the best for now.
For now,
I will say I'm not as dying as you two. I can let China go down, but that's not because of the fans either, because the fans can build a bridge and get over my opinions. But for now, I would put it at 4th.
I'm okay putting it 4th. I have no argument. You know I love Cagayan, but this is also a really fantastic season. I'm not trying to play like it's my way or the highway, but I don't think this even touches Micronesia personally.
Yeah, I think I in my whole ranking of the seasons, I think Pearl Islands is 1, Micronesia is 2. And then I feel like you could shuffle around the other 3 between
David versus Goliath.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But
we'll see.
I think I can live with San Juan del Sur being 4th right now. For now. Because when this comes back, I will push for it to be over China. But for now,
that last podcast,
I can live with 4th.
What I'm hearing is you think your opinions are all better than mine. That's fine.
I do think this particular one is better than yes.
Well, I think both of your opinions of Palau's stupid, so it's fine. Tit for tat.
And I don't know anything.
China's good. I just think that they're like the John Robert blindside is great and the James blindside is great. I think it's otherwise a fairly straightforward post merge and with some fun characters and people to root for along the way, but it doesn't pop to like the very, very top of the list for me. I think it's really good. I just don't think it's top 3.
We're 3 people with 3 very varying opinions. Like that's
it's fine. You both are wrong about some stuff, and the thing you're definitely wrong about is Australian Outback and how low we have Australian Outback right now. Is this thing in the 20s yet? No, it's not
in the 20s yet. It's 18th. It's 18th.
That is insane to me. Anyways, let's move on to Worlds Apart.
Wait, so we're putting it 4th for now?
Yes,
yeah.
4th.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. There's really nothing else to talk about here. Come back next week. And Worlds Apart. I was honest with the guys. You guys know, watching the show for however long you guys have been Survivor Now fans, it's not smart as me as a Survivor analyst to say, hey, I don't know much about the season. I'm supposed to be an expert. But I'm always honest with you guys. I don't remember anything about this season. You know what I remember, and I'm not proud? I remember liking Dan at the time, and I hate that for me. Because Dan,
for you too.
hate it. And I'll admit it. I'm an honest person. Dan was the guy I rooted on this season.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I don't know if that tells you anything about this cast. Mike Holloway is arguably my least favorite, up there for one of my least favorite winners. I'm not big on Amber. I'm not big on Marianne. I'm definitely not big on Mike. Mike beats Carolyn and Will. 6-1-1. Let me go down the cast really fast. I do remember.
Do we have to?
Yeah, do we have to? We really
Sierra
don't.
Thomas. Can we? Sierra Thomas. Hello.
No.
Okay, do you know what? No, I did stand her, but just because I appreciate how she looks.
Shireen.
Okay, I was waiting all season for Sierra Dawn Thomas to do something. She was like, in the pre-merge, her ally Lindsay gets voted off, and she's like, "My tribe is dead to me, dead." She says that, and I'm like, "Yeah, same girl. Like your tribe's dead to me too." And I'm waiting for her all season long to do something, and she doesn't because she wants to go to the end with Dan and Rodney and Will. And it's like, well, guess what? Everyone else has that same idea. You're not original. So then they cut her. Oh my gosh. Then they bring her back for Game Changers when she was the antithesis of a Game Changer. Are you kidding me?
That was fun. That was just irony in its finest.
I can't.
I do think there's some good people here. Shireen, Jen Brown. Please don't get me canceled for saying this. I know a lot of people hate him for his religious beliefs and stuff, but I am a Joe fan. I enjoy watching Joe play the game. Not talking about what he does outside of the game. I just like Joe as a game player. Haley was on the
Haley.
Yeah, Haley enough to get brought back. There's some iconic like early boots. I thought Nina was interesting. So Kim robbed.
I was gonna say
so
the
was
icon. So Kim was robbed.
She was robbed. She deserved so much better than she got.
They were casting her to be a Brenda 2.0.
I mean, she was
like Brenda Poverty.
She was awesome, and I think she had a ton of potential. She dated Malcolm for at least a year.
Did she actually?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
But she's like, she's clearly cool people. She was
this is a bottom 5 season for me. Like it's just not good. I'm looking right now. Like I would probably put this 28 personally. The only seasons below it, Thailand and Redemption Island. I know you guys hate South Pacific. I think South Pacific's better than this.
I put it below South Pacific.
Yeah, I could live with that. I think this season is just so ugly. It's so ugly.
It's so
and there's so many terrible people go so far and never get their comeuppance in satisfying ways. And you just have to watch it all season long. Strategically, like the gameplay is really boring. I mean, yeah, Haley is one of my favorites from this season. And I love her. I think partly because she's just such a ray of sunshine and like in the midst of like a lot of like ugly stuff going around. But yeah, she's the first member of the jury, doesn't get a huge edit, and that's, she's a highlight of the season for me when there's really not a whole lot there. That is, just such a terrible cast.
Yeah. Screw Dan, screw Rodney, screw Will, screw Vince.
I almost thought about like pushing this back to the next podcast and doing 30 through 40 just because I'm like, man, you hate to end on a negative note, but like.
Yeah, and you think like, oh, season 30, like you'd think they, it should be epic because it's, the show's been around for 30 seasons. Can you believe it? And we got this, like, it's so bad.
Instead, they thought 40 was the big, like.
Well, I mean, they made 31 the big one, which, was being fair, 15-year anniversary, but like, you couldn't have done that for season 30. Whatever. I am okay with this being below South Pacific.
I'm okay with this being below Thailand, to be honest.
I'm okay with it below Thailand. I'll leave that up to Josh.
I am okay with it. I don't know what I would advocate for being between Thailand and this. I don't know.
Actually, no. I would put it above Thailand because when I look at the winner, do I care for both winners? No, but I definitely don't like Brian. So
Brian is like more of a gross winner than Mike. Mike was someone who I really did not like him early on, but then like when he kind of becomes a tribe pariah and doesn't, is working against all these other people who I definitely am rooting against more. I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm kind of rooting for him. Never thought I would root for the, all-American boy, challenge beast from Texas that Jeff loves. Never thought I would be rooting for him, but here I am.
I will say it was like when I saw them hating on him, I'm like, it's just because you're all in this mob mentality. So I'm like, did he really do anything wrong? No. Did he do anything right? I'll say no, but yeah. I put it.
Here's a fun thing. This is a fun thing to end on. Let's say you could double what you put down. Like if you bet $50, you could win 100. Would you bet on any of this cast coming back for 50 or a future season?
No.
Because I saw some people say in comments for one of our social media posts say they want to see Mike come back, and they're shocked that we haven't seen Mike come back for a season. Like
I was honestly pretty surprised that Mike was not on Winners at War.
Do you guys think anyone from the season will ever play again?
I mean,
I'm saying ever.
They brought back 4 people from this season.
Who are the 4?
Sierra, Haley, and Shireen.
Yeah.
I don't think I see any of these people coming back. Yeah, I don't think I see any of them coming back.
No.
Oh, I could also see that. I just wanted to see if there was one person that maybe stuck out
was
to you.
really surprised that Mike was one of the people left off Winners.
Yeah.
I was fine with him not being there, but I was surprised that they didn't bring him back.
That's my opinion on it.
Have you already updated the rankings, Ollie?
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys look at the screen below, you can see our rankings. Gentlemen, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like this week's podcast, I feel really great about where we put a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Like Josh, last week after Ollie had to go, you said you were 80% happy with this list. Like, where's your percentage at now? Has it gone down? Is it about the same?
I mean, I do love how many older seasons we have higher up. Like I'm looking at like Panama, Vanuatu, Amazon, Palau at 9 through 12. I love that. Yeah, I love our top. Yeah, there's little squabbles. I mean, little squabbles I have along
like
the way.
China could be lower.
Yeah, I think China should be a little lower. I think Tocantins should be a lot lower. I think that, but in general, I think this is pretty solid.
Ollie, how are you feeling? Josh gave us his percentage last week. I said that, all things considered, we're 3 guys who are trying to come to an agreement at a reasonable time. Obviously, this podcast went 2 hours this week. They keep getting longer as we get more into discussion. But we have a wonderful fan base who is watching us. We're not going to please everyone. We are listening to the fans, but for the most part, from what I'm seeing, people are like, I would put this here. I would put this here. But for the most part, the list is pretty good.
I think the list is good so far. I mean, again, we've kind of clearly stated that my favorite seasons are not Josh's favorite seasons, but that's fine. He literally names my top 2 seasons there, saying they should be lower. Thank you so much. Again, as I said, Natalie Revenge Tour is coming. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I think I've ruled it. Like I'm pretty content with these. Like there was the one that I was going to fight for, and it's higher than It's as high as I wanted it to be.
Wait, which one was that?
Well, One World.
Yeah, I think One World being slightly above the bottom 3rd season. That's like roughly where I would put it too.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Can I argue one more time, gentlemen, for South Pacific? Okay. I'm kidding. No, but I can't complain. I feel like a lot of times I overhype the seasons that a lot of people, the majority of the fan base, do not enjoy. But I can't complain because right now the season that is leading the way is arguably my favorite season of all time in Micronesia, fans versus favorites. That continues to be the first one. The worst one is Redemption Island. We'll see if one goes below that. I have one in mind for next week that I personally think is the worst season of all time. So we'll get to that.
When we get there.
It took a split second, but we will start off next week with talking about season 31, Cambodia Second Chance, a season that when Ollie first joined the podcast, he recapped with Matthew.
I did.
It was their first podcast ever. So if you want something to watch in the meantime, before you come back here next week, we did a full Cambodia Second Chance rewatch. You can find it on our playlist on YouTube. So go back, rewatch it. You can hear us speak about each and every episode. It'd be a great, perfect. You have a week to watch it. We'll start with that. We'll wrap up with Winners at War next week, which is a very decisive season. But other than that, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week. See you then, guys.